You're watching TelecomTV's exclusive video coverage of the first ever OPNFV Summit from here in San Francisco. I'm joined now by Jake Lovelace, who is CEO of Lucera. Jake, thank you for joining us on TelecomTV.
Thanks for having me.
Lucera is a company that works with customers in the financial services sector.
Exclusively.
Exclusively.
Yeah.
And your model is one of providing cloud-based services, infrastructure-based services?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Cloud is kind of a four-letter word in financial services. So, I mean, public cloud adoption for, exchanges and tier one banks and proprietary trading shops is a total non-starter. But kind of those same concepts, those concepts of just-in-time capacity and just-in-time infrastructure services, that's what we do. So we're a co-located infrastructure as a service company. So we have three things that we do in our industry, right? We do work on data, we move data, and we store data. So those are kind of the pillars. So we have on-demand compute capacity, where you can actually go and click a button and spin up a ginormous server that you can trade with in London or New York or Chicago or what have you. And then we run a massive software-defined network that allows financial institutions, which are all connected to each other over private fiber optic links, to enable trading capabilities, enable application-level connections with the click of a button. So you can, spin up a connection from New York to Tokyo, right? And it comes up in a few seconds, and then start trading.
So did you start almost like greenfield model and you said we want SDN? SDN and NFV are going to be essential for our model and what we have to deliver?
I mean, it's interesting. So before Lucera, and the history is probably relevant. So I worked at a company called Cantor Fitzgerald, which was a huge Wall Street investment bank and a private partnership, and I ran our fully automated trading group. So we had kind of traditional networking in the very beginning. And you kind of forget the origins of these things, but late 2005, early 2006, we started doing this stuff in software, but we started for an interesting reason, which was what we noticed is that the performance improvements that we were getting with commodity hardware and the rate of that was vastly outstripping what we were getting with an ASIC or with kind of going out and buying equipment from other people. And of course, we build latency sensitive software. So we thought, how hard can it be? So off you go. We upgrade our SDN equipment every 18 months. We love Moore's Law. Kind of fast forward a few years, what ended up happening is our unit economics fundamentally changed. The cost of our connectivity went down by an order of magnitude. And so all of a sudden, new ideas were easier to implement. It was like, I want to try connecting to 100 venues. It's like, well, guess what? It doesn't cost that much anymore, so let's try it. I mean, it's kind of a long trail of tears. It really takes a long time to burn in a network stack. But by 2010, this stuff was very much in production. Running trading at Cantor. And then, we spun out from Cantor in April of 2013. And took those concepts and made it available to the wider community within our industry, obviously.
So you've got the SDN, you've got software-defined networking going on. A couple of years ago, we started looking at NFV as an industry. So how does NFV fit in with your plans? Yeah,
it's interesting. And again, I'm such a student of history that I find these Renaissance periods always entertaining, right? Because we tend to come up with, TLAs, three-letter acronyms, for all these things that really are all kind of the same. I mean, network function virtualization to me means edge network services. So functions and features that we used to put in routing topologies or in routers or firewalls or things like that. And when you're doing that stuff in software and you're doing routing in software, that's kind of an SDN. So the line is very blurry. It's very fuzzy for me. But what we're starting to see today, and certainly we've seen a wider adoption in the web community, is looking at much smaller subsets of those edge functions and optimizing them. Let's build a better load balancer. Let's build a better VPN system. Let's build a better GRE tunneling system. Let's kind of really dig down into these individual problems at the edge and get them to unit economics where we can scale them, where you can have on-demand VPN for everybody and stuff like that. So
So if cloud is a four-letter word for the financial services industry, surely open really is a four-letter word.
It's interesting. Open is not. So, you know, our industry, I think coopetition is probably the best way to put it, right? I mean, we all have subtle differentiators, but we're all sensitive to cost. And, you know, I think the timing is also important. I don't know if you heard, we had this little financial crisis a couple of years ago. And so what happens is when you have something like that, and you have a lowering of interest rates, inevitably profits decrease, and you know, constraint breeds creativity, and it also breeds, you know, co-opetition. So all of a sudden there's a lot more sharing and a lot more adoption of open source, and you know, Linux is what Wall Street runs. I mean, that's an open operating system. There's open messaging stacks, open fix engines. There's a lot of openness in Wall Street. It's just its application is really in Wall Street, so it's kind of rare for that to make it into another industry, but it's very much present every day.
Which brings us full circle in a way, because this is the OPNFV Summit. What's your interest and why are you supporting OPNFV?
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because we don't do a whole lot of public speaking. If you can kind of imagine the customer base that we service and the industry that we exist in, we're probably, you know, the least well-known telecom grade provider, but very well known in our industry. So, you know, why do we go step out of the building and come to a summit like this? And the answer is because we need to accelerate this. This is a problem. I see two trains chugging at one another. I see the growth of distributed systems and microservices. And I know what networks can do, and I know where commodity and legacy networks stop working. And so it's in everybody's interest. It's in our interest to get new partners and new engineering talent, new ideas, and it's in the community's interest to have a practitioner come in and say, hey, we've tried these things and these things don't work at scale. And we tried these other things and they do work at scale. So again, it's about fostering a community. It's the same kind of thing that we do in our operating system.
Because the OPNFV has got a massive job on its hands, hasn't it? There are a lot of projects currently ongoing.
Yeah, network is kind of a big problem, right? So, I mean, you think about it, it's like, why are there so many companies here? Why are there so many of us working together? You know, when you think about telco, you think about standards for you know, cooperation, but this is something different. This is a much, much deeper partnership. I mean, we've got Intel here, we've got Ericsson here, we've got, you know, operating system vendors here, we've got all kinds of people. And I think that just speaks to the breadth of that problem. I mean, we have, you know, what, 40 plus projects in OPNFV today. I think that speaks to the scale of the problem and kind of the recognition that there's no one company that can solve this. And that there's value in taking best of breed solutions kind of across that stack, and then building that, you know, kind of homogeneous solution for everybody to use. And I mean, that's what we do, and I think that's the future, certainly as we've seen in other areas of the stack.
Jake, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.